So, hello, Emily. Welcome back to my show.
Thank you so much. It's lovely to be here again.
Yeah, do you want to reintroduce yourself to the audience?
Sure. I am Emily Smith-Vartanian. I'm the head troublemaker of General Mischief. I'm also the artistic director, but we seem to think that title's a lot more fun.
Yeah, troublemaker.
Mm-hmm.
And also we remember like the t-shirt, it said, "We make troubles," or something like that.
Yes, our Mischief shirts are very, very popular, and people always want to get the one that says, "I like mischief."
Yeah, so do you want to introduce something about how Mischief look like, how the performance look like, what is the style?
That's an excellent idea. The company does works that are based in classical training, whether it's ballet or modern or even jazz, that are always playful. So there's something about them that connects with people, whether they're 5 years old, 50 years old, 100 years old. People enjoy watching the dance story unfold. So as much as there is dance technique involved, there's also characters, people that they can follow along and enjoy seeing their adventures happen. A lot of the time also, it's unusual. We do what is known as breaking the fourth wall. This is a term to say that the dancers and the audience interact. Not in every dance, but in a number of the dances, there's a way for the audience to connect with us, either physically or verbally. One of the dances, they have these plastic wiffle balls, and they get to throw them at us at the end when we do not behave.
I remember that one, that particular show. So I heard that actually you're working on a bigger project or bigger seasonal performance right now. So is that play ball also going to be part of the big show this time?
We are going to include play ball this fall. The big project, the brand new one I believe you're referring to, this is the project with a 20-foot mobile, so about 4 or 5 meters across. If you can imagine the mobile that sometimes will hang above a child's bed, it's sometimes called a kinetic sculpture. It's basically a piece of art that's suspended from above, and it has lots of pieces. And it's going to start in a two-dimensional design on the stage, and the dancers are going to rearrange the pieces and put it together until it's suspended above us.
Improvisation?
This is pretty choreographed, just because the pieces are so intricate.
Right.
It's being designed by an artist from Washington, D.C. His name is Kevin Reese. He's fantastic. I've been wanting to collaborate with him for about 3 years, and it's finally happening. It's very exciting.
So do you want to talk more about like why did you come up with this idea, and then why do you want to do something mobile?
Definitely. I think you don't always know. Sometimes the projects pick you instead of you picking the project. And I've had that happen with our Shel Silverstein suite, where I simply started reading one of his books one night, and for some reason the certain poems jumped off the page and started putting themselves together. And that was just the seed material. We don't use any of the poems, but the seeds come from different places. And in this case, it was when I was walking at the APAP conference, which you know so well.
Yeah, right.
Kevin is upstairs, where there's a lot of very big commercial groups and companies, not dance focused generally, often focused on singing or big productions, which literally include fireworks, something quite different from dance works. And I walked by Kevin's booth and stopped. My feet just stopped themselves. And because I looked up and I saw the mobile that he had suspended above his booth. And this was 3 years ago. I still remember it. I just sort of slowly walked toward this nice man that was standing there.
Felt connected suddenly.
Definitely. And he was speaking with someone, so I just stood there and waited like a
kid.
fool almost. And I said, "Hi, I'm Emily." And he said, "Hi, I'm Kevin. Tell me about what you do." And he wasn't at all rude or putting me off when I was very honest about the fact that I wasn't a school or a producer that was trying to book him. I just said, "I have a dance company." And he said, "That's wonderful. I've always wanted to work with dancers." And so at that point, it was just in the back of my brain. The next year I came back and I gave him a DVD of our work. And so I gave that to him, and this was, in the jumble of the conference. The following year, we actually had a meeting. We talked. Our meeting was supposed to be an hour. It went on for an hour and a half, and I had such guilt. His wife and daughter went to go see a Broadway show, and he met with me.
Oh, wow, that's special.
It was incredibly special and incredibly generous. And, I mean, he's got a lot to do during the conference, but both his wife and his daughter, wonderful people. She's actually famous on YouTube. You should look up Melinda Reese. She's very famous for her adaptations of Google Translate song lyrics. Really, really charming. The thing that then happened was he came to see our APAP showcase. And This year.
7, 8 months ago.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, just 8 months ago in January. And we met in the hallway afterward. He said, this is exactly what, I was hoping for. He has a theater background. He was a professional actor for many years. He still does a one-man show about a character named Sandy, somewhat inspired by the incredible artist Alexander Calder, who basically is the first person that created mobile sculptures. That he was a very innovative artist. And so he has this fantastic show. He's performed it over 1,000 times. He's done it at the Met Museum, all over the country, internationally, actually. And I'm going to get to see it in September, which is really, really exciting. So as we talked, it became more and more of a thing where we said, okay, we want to do this and we want to do it now. So it came together with a composer from California and a woman here in New York who's a wonderful director that's kind of guiding us as we create the story. And we're talking already about what the pieces are going to be, how they're going to put themselves together. And we have a practice mobile. I even have here in the studio some pieces that we're using in rehearsal for now because the mobile...
The real one or the mini ones?
The mini ones.
Okay.
Yeah, it's tricky because he's making the mobile. This is an incredible aspect that I love about this project. Washington, D.C. at the Atlas Arts Center is doing a residency. It's called Mobilizing Our Community. He's making 60 mobiles in Washington, D.C.
For the community.
For the community.
Oh, wow.
But one of them is specially designated to be the mobile for mischief.
Oh.
So we're going to get to have this mobile and use it in the show, and we're hoping to bring it back to Washington, D.C. so the people who made it get to see what's happened with it.
That's awesome. So what time is the show?
The show is on October 11th. We're doing 2 performances at the beautiful theater, the JCC, the brand new facility on 76th and Broadway. It's 1 p.m. and 6 p.m., and that's going to be the brand new world premiere of this new mobile adventure.
So the whole performance will be this show, like this one performance, and including some little other small
some
pieces.
Other things as well. Yes,
Okay.
We're going to include the baseball, the play ball, and we're also going to do some of our Shel Silverstein suite and one more new piece that we debuted in May called the Love Trio, the jazz piece.
Oh, okay,
Yes.
it's gonna be fun. Yeah, and also I heard that actually you started a Kickstarter project for this show.
Yes.
So do you want to talk about it a little bit?
Oh, I'd love to. The Mobile project is particularly wonderful in that it's going to connect with people, whether they're the ones that made the mobile or not. I think everybody, and this is one of the things I love about dance, regardless of age, regardless of language, you don't need to know anything other than how exciting it is to see dancers put this puzzle together. So we started a Kickstarter to pay for the process of having the mobile created, transported to New York, and we do always pay our artists. Our artists are not volunteer. They get a stipend for rehearsals as well as paid for the performance. And of course, Kevin and Amanda For You, the creative guide, and our composer are being paid as well. So if you look on Kickstarter, you can go to General Mischief, or you can look up Mischief Goes Mobile, or Mobile, depending on where you're from. The project is happening now. It's live. It's a third of the way there, but we would definitely love more support to pay the artists and make the project happen.
It's great because I'm just imagining the show. Like you can see a lot of pieces like flying in the air. It's like I feel like I'm sure children will love it for sure. Yeah,
definitely. We've ended up being kind of like, you know how Pixar makes movies that are family friendly, like Monsters Incorporated and The Incredibles. One of the gentlemen from the company, I actually heard him in an interview, I think it might have been Pete Docter, said, we make movies we want to see, not just movies for children. And I know John Lasseter talks about how Pixar sands the underside of the drawers. They look to all the details. They make stories that appeal to everyone, not just for young people. So I think what we've ended up doing is making pieces for everyone that are absolutely perfect for younger audiences as well. Yeah.
Yeah, I have been like watching General Mischief's showcases for 3 years, and then I can see it's a little bit of changes every single year, and definitely the whole family or like everyone, they will love it, and you can kind of feel connected in one way or another to the show.
I'm so glad to hear that. That's wonderful.
Yeah. And then, so how about the practice or rehearsal process right now?
Rehearsal process has actually been quite marvelous. We started with just making ideas based on the music from Donna Viscuso, the composer. She has a lot of Venezuelan influence. She plays the flute and other instruments. And we have gone from using her songs and kind of presenting ideas of what the characters could be that we're going to put the mobile together. And she was incredibly generous and said, absolutely, and I have a new piece that I want to finish and make it just for you, so that
so
Mischief can use it.
About everything.
So generous.
Yeah.
A quick side story. This was entirely unexpected, but something that will happen in Mischief rehearsals is just joyful things that you don't expect. When you're making joyful work, and we're very picky with our dancers. It's not just that they have to have a certain level of training and a breadth of experience, but they also have to have positive attitudes.
Yes, right. As I can see from you.
I hope so. Heaven forbid I be hypocritical. It's not okay to say you all have to be nice, but I will be grumpy.
Because I feel like you're always so nice, so sweet to all the every single dancers. So I feel like it's kind of not that tricky or not that hard to be part of the team.
I hope so.
Not really.
That's the idea. Having been a dancer for a very long time, I always want to be the kind of person I would want to work for. And that really was important to me when Mischief was founded, saying, what are we doing this for? Because even though the dancers are getting paid, but they're not getting paid nearly as much as they should be, by any standards. Their talents and their incredible gifts are just, it's a challenge to fundraise for nonprofit arts regardless, but it better be fun. And that's why when they say something like, this is the best, I was feeling poorly before I came into rehearsal and now I feel good, or of course I need the paycheck, but I would do this for free. When they say things like that, it makes a big difference to me. So we do have fun in rehearsal, and I think that shows in the work. That shows in the work tremendously, that the dancers enjoy the process, and they are also very generous with what they give to the dances, because of that kind of a happy space that they're in and that we're in when we rehearse. What was it? Oh, the story with Donna's music. There was a section that we created with two sisters in rehearsal, and big sister, little sister, and the little sister's kind of being a pest, and the big sister's kind of trying to let her go do something else, and she keeps following her around, and it's a very charming little sequence. And the dancers that did it decided just to really go for it and be extremely playful. We sent it off to Donna, and Donna said, "Oh, that's so wonderful! You used my song, a song that she recorded with the V-Note Ensemble." Jacqueline Rago also contributes compositions to the company, many of them. It's an ensemble group. She said, "I wrote this piece for my dog." The piece is called Puro Amor, or Pure Love in English. And she said, just how when you come home at the end of the day, your dog is so friendly and loving. Like, you well know how marvelous it is to...
They don't need to do anything just by showing the love and greeting people. They just make a living.
And that's what she wrote about in this piece. And so that was where the sisters came in. So we've nicknamed the sister sequence the Puppies. And she made the song that she made specifically for us to use is called Milo's Ballet. And one of the dancers, Kirsten Sharrow, said, "Oh, is it named after a cat?" And I looked at her and I said, "Haha, very funny." Because Milo and Otis was a movie in the United States many years ago about a cat and a dog, and the cat's name was Milo. And I said, "That's hilarious." And then I mentioned this to Donna, and Donna comes back with, "Actually, it is. I named it for a stray cat that we just adopted."
Awesome. Also for the dancers to feel that connection.
Yes. It was amazing that she just picked up on it. But it's become a running joke as we're going through the rehearsals. you would not believe the nicknames that things get while this is happening. You know, we call it the baseball thing, like very basic nicknames sometimes, but then every once in a while we'll call it the whoop and down. What the heck is this? This is just a name we made up.
Yeah.
This is a name we made up for a particular movement or a series, and then I say, okay, it's the puppy's turn, and the two girls come on from the side.
Yeah.
So the rehearsals really are a joy.
I feel like it's very great to be the dancers of Jolin Mischief. Like they enjoy such a great time during the rehearsal and also after work. Like you actually can be very good friends. Like you talk about everything, enjoying every single moment.
I hope so.
Yeah.
I really enjoy their company. We have a wonderful time, and I think the audience can feel that as well. We've had people comment on it, both professional reviewers, but there's also the people that aren't being paid to write about what they're saying, and they said, "You're having so much fun. It was so much fun to watch." I think it comes out.
So during the rehearsal or all the creative work process, like besides those happy moments in like very creative moments, do you also face some problems or frustrations as well? I'm sure there are, but I just never see them.
I'm glad there definitely are. It's difficult. I mean, there's various things that are hard. Rehearsals are usually the most fun. Well, ultimately at the end, sharing the piece with the audience is the kind of the highlight. This is the most joy and the most energy all in the same room. But you kind of throughout the process you can't just say we're doing this to get to that point. It's worth that, but you want something to come out of the process, the learning, the growth of the company, as you talked about before. That comes from learning from the process of making the dances. And there are difficulties. There's always logistical difficulties. We're very lucky, and we have a good rehearsal space to use, but fundraising is still tough. And every once in a while, I'll be standing in rehearsal, and one of the dancers will say, "You have think face."
Oh.
And I said, "Yes, give me one moment." And I'll just stand there, and they'll either review the material or they'll chat amongst themselves. We actually we just posted an update to the Kickstarter that happens. Sometimes I'm thinking, and then I go and I get the video camera ready to record. And I'm thinking, and things will happen. And in this case, one of the dancers started singing "Take Me Out to the Ball Game," and we caught it on video, and it was absolutely hilarious. So we just posted that as an update, which was really fun. Most of the things never get recorded, so people have no idea the various adventures. But there is definitely a face that I wear when the gears in my head, I'm trying to figure something out, because either a person is in the wrong place, like they have 4 counts to get from one space to the other, so we have to change something, but you don't want to change either, so you have to find the compromise. Right now, it's a wonderful problem to have. We are losing one of the dancers for the fall show because she's been cast in West Side Story.
Oh, so talented.
It's so talented. She's incredible. She's a marvelous singer in addition to dancer. And so all of us said, "Yay! Oh, this is so wonderful." And oh no. And also you just have to accommodate everyone's schedules in general, even if they're not gone for a performance, in which case you have to replace them for that. But dancers, one of them is doing the Paul Taylor workshop right now. One of them has been off running a summer program for 6 weeks. And you just kind of have to figure out how to work with that. And again, you can be a tyrant, but I think again that makes you someone they don't want to work for. It makes it a stressful thing. And if you want really wonderful people, you kind of have to be willing to accommodate it, because the wonderful people have busy schedules. That's just how it generally works.
Yeah, just like as you mentioned, wonderful people have very tight schedule, like you
like
do.
you.
Because I know, like besides the Jolin Mischief, this big project, you're also like doing some yoga teaching and then taking a lot of dance classes, and also doing something else that I don't even know. So do you want to talk about your other part of life?
Yeah, I mean, it's good because yoga helps me stay balanced. I'm originally from the San Francisco area, and New York is a very wonderful, very intense city. So doing yoga kept me kind of sane when I first moved here, and then I became a teacher, and that's become my day job that I really, really love. I'm very lucky that some people actually enjoy waiting tables, but I know a lot of people don't. And I like my day job. I enjoy doing it, and I enjoy seeing people change their lives through their practice. But at the same time, I continue with other things. In a few weeks, I'm gonna go climb a mountain. Yeah, it's a real treat to get out of the city. I don't, it's expensive, and with rehearsals and teaching, it's difficult to do, but sometimes you just have to plan that time. I think we planned it 5 months ahead to get out and actually go do something. But that also, again, it helps me stay positive, because if you only work all the time, you don't do anything else, and you never kind of take a breath, I discover that I wear out, and I certainly get grumpy a lot faster. And then every once in a while, there's random marvelous things that happen. Last week, another one of the Mischief Dancers and I, through Helium, through Heather Hammond's company, danced for Weird Al Yankovic. We had a fantastic time at this show, and I have been a fan of Weird Al since I was about 10, while my brother was 8, and playing his album. I was going to say CD, but it was probably on a tape. In the late 80s, early 90s. I heard the song so many times, and I became a fan. And have continued to be a fan as he's come out with new parodies and musical things. And all of a sudden there was this opportunity to be the dancers in his show. So we did that. We did that last week. It was one of his New York tour stop on the mandatory world tour. He was incredibly, incredibly focused. He was incredibly generous, very nice to us. I don't want it to sound like he wasn't kind, because he really was. We have a picture. It's actually a Kickstarter plug now, because he's got the stormtroopers that are featured at the end of the show behind him, and we're there with the Mischief Kickstarter T-shirt. So we actually have a Weird Al plug. He was really, really kind to everyone that approached him, but also incredibly to do what he does, which is, I don't know, 15 different characters in one show that goes straight for 2 hours with no intermission, and then a 20-minute encore that includes him playing the accordion, an a cappella section with Balinese Ketchak, which I was not expecting. He's an incredible musician, and just getting to be a part of that show was such a treat. Especially working with the people backstage, you could tell that the venue staff were very excited that today's show was Weird Al. Yeah. Like, they were having a good time just being there, listening to the music, and making it happen. Because I'm sure there are shows that are a lot less fun, but that is an excellent and really fun show, and we were very happy to be a part of it.
That's awesome. Congratulations.
Yeah. Thank you. It was such a joy. Oh my gosh.
How did you find this precious opportunity, or the opportunity picked you up?
It was one of those amazing things. Heather Hammond, who has actually worked with Mischief before. She's come in as a guest artist. She's an incredibly gifted performer and aerial dancer. She has an entertainment company, and she was looking for dancers, so she brought us in. And we did do the choreography ourselves, which was very interesting, because we had 4 days notice. We found out on Sunday. We performed on Thursday, and we didn't see each other to rehearse together until Wednesday. So we literally had a day of rehearsing together to get it done. It came out really well, and I had a long conversation with the keyboardist from Weird Al's band. His name is Ruben, incredibly generous, really sweet man. And he talked about how he really appreciated the fact that we were in the character of the piece, because it's a knockoff of a Nirvana song from, I'm trying to remember exactly what year it was released, 91 or 92, I believe, is when Weird Al's version came out. The song's called Smells Like Nirvana. And you have to really commit to being a hostile cheerleader.
Oh.
Yeah, it's a very strange thing. It's not like joyful, yay, here we go with a big smile. It's definitely cheering on the band and Weird Al as he's singing, but it's very much more aggressive in tone. And he said they've had dancers that didn't really approach the characters that were appropriate to the song before. And that meant a lot. That meant a lot, because it was a surprise to people that it was our first time doing it.
It is part of your character. It is, okay.
It's very much the character of the dancers in that is to be kind of doing movement that matches the music. And I think that's important. Unless you make a choice, whatever dance you're doing, if the music is kind of light and free and graceful, if you're doing very aggressive staccato movements, that has to be very deliberate. Otherwise it feels very odd to the audience to watch
you
something.
You don't feel connected at all.
Yeah, there's no connection there. And I even when it is deliberate, sometimes I find it off-putting, though I think sometimes that's the choice of the choreographer. That's not generally what I do with my work, and Kirsten and I agreed that we were going to go absolutely down that road, and they use different dancers in every city, so we were very lucky to be there. New York.
So they just give 4 days notice every single time.
It's interesting. I think it actually is the venue that has to find the dancers.
Oh, okay.
And I think that's probably not unusual to have not a lot of notice, but it probably varies from event to event. I know they're going to be in London in October, and if they need me,
yeah, fly there. Since your brother's there anyway.
Yeah, he is. That's very true. I could go visit.
Yeah, and also like in terms of the teaching and also some other day job, what else do you do? Because I feel like you're so busy, and in order to be a freelancing dancer, you have to do a lot of things in order to make the life going on.
It's true. And yeah, I mean, the majority is from yoga teaching, which keeps me in balance, so it's not all dance all the time. I think I approach dance with a fresher perspective because that's not all 14 hours of your day every day. But I certainly train, and actually this week, the new project, I don't think I mentioned this before, I'm choreographing a small section of one song, the only dancing in the show, for a New York City Fringe Festival musical that's called The Absolutely True Science of Nerds.
Oh,
so
it's going to be a fun piece.
It's going to be a very fun piece. It's about, how to become Batman, and Shaiporn Theotoklostittit, I hope I pronounced his Thai last name correctly, is putting this show together, and we've known each other since we worked together in the Fringe a long time ago, so he brought me in to do tap choreography for his piece. So that's happening this week.
How many dance styles have you learned before?
This is
your fingers are nodding.
I know. I actually think they might not be. It depends on how you count. I remember that I at one point counted, and it was at 12 that I could distinctly identify. And it's interesting because you could say that Mischief almost has its own language style, but we don't say we only do modern or we only do contemporary, because one piece will be very jazz, one piece will be more ballet based, and some of the pieces kind of defy categorization. But I went to UCLA, and while I was studying there, the program was a combination of the dance department and the World Arts and Cultures department. So I had trained in a lot of things, jazz and tap from the time I was very young, ballet of course, a lot of modern, and you could call modern dance one entity, or you could say I trained in Horton, and I trained in Graham, and I trained in Dunham. All of those you could viably say those are particular vocabulary, because they really are. But beyond that, I had done a little bit of Afro-Cuban. I had learned actually a Japanese traditional dance for the Cherry Blossom Festival. Yeah, it was wonderful, because we had like a cultural arts week, and so we worked on this piece. And it was really tremendously fun to learn those different things. So when I went off to UCLA, I added a lot of different things to it. I learned some Indonesian more classical dance, and I learned a lot of flamenco, and I finally got to take more extensive training with Keith Terry, who does body music. So it's actually body percussion, and it's kind of like tap dancing on your body. He was a drummer, and he basically stood up and figured out how to make all of the sounds that the tap dancers he was working with at the time made with their feet on his body. And then he took that, he's expanded it to the International Body Music Festival. I had such a good time performing with him, but then that's another question: is that a form of dance, or is that a form of music? So definitely more than 10.
Yeah, right.
But it's, and the other question of tap dancing, do you count what kind of more traditional old school 30s and 40s musical style, sometimes called Broadway tap, as different from the Gregory Hines and contemporary lineage, often called rhythm tap? I think pretty much everybody agrees those are all tap, but they're very much different flavors and different ways of communicating. So
like because for me, I can see a lot of different styles from your choreography and from General Mischief. So I have a question. Is that a lot of actually those creative ideas, they have some connection with your childhood experience or childhood memories or something like that? What do these very unique ideas come from? Because it's definitely very unique among other dance companies.
Wow. I think I was very lucky as a kid. Actually, this might be surprising to you. My mother was a math teacher for 20 years. She taught algebra and geometry, and when she started doing that full time, we were her guinea pigs. My brother, who's a year and a half younger, and I were the ones that she tried all her games on and her new lessons at home. So we played a lot of puzzle games and math games and really enjoyed it. It wasn't an imposition. We really had a fun time. So I would actually bet that this new piece was highly influenced by that, because it is literally the solving of a puzzle in dance form. It's like playing a game because the pieces of the mobile aren't assembled. We put them together while we're dancing. And the interactions between each other, I'm sure, were influenced by my brother and I and my parents. And I'm very lucky because even though I had these influences, I wasn't forced, and you understand this very much, like I was encouraged to follow my dreams and wasn't told I had to go into math or I had to go into sciences. I followed them all the way into college, but when I said, this is... It seems like I have to choose in my life, they said, choose what you love. And so that was a remarkable thing for a math teacher and a chemist to say. And there are lots of other influences, especially with the sweet shell. Playing on the playground, I think, is something everybody does in different ways, but it's a universal language because we've all been 7, and if you're lucky, you have space to run around when you're 7. Not everybody does. I know in New York City, some space can be hard to find.
Because I remember in some of the pieces, like your choreograph, like you are actually running around the stage, and also you're playing cards and eating the granola bars or something like that.
We've done so many crazy things. Yes, the cards piece we do. We draw cards to see who takes what position on the stage, and that does change the choreography for each dancer a little bit. I apologize sincerely that's another reason why it behooves you to be a nice artistic director, because then when you make everyone learn 3 parts for one dance, your very generous dancers say, no problem, absolutely, we'll learn it 3 ways. So my crazy ideas that come from these games get to be realized because everyone's so nice about it. But yeah, we have the audience draw cards to determine that piece.
They enjoy. Yeah, because I feel like sometimes your parents are actually part of the audience and they support in every way they can. And then they, especially your mom, she's so enthusiastic about every single piece you make. And then she's laughing like a child as well, which is very inspiring.
It's incredibly wonderful. I remember performing as a kid, and she's always she's genuine. She enjoys funny things, and every time she was in the audience, somebody said, who was that person who understood all the jokes? And can you ask her to come back tomorrow?
She laughed like a child, for
sure. She does. She got every single thing. She understands them all, and you always wonder, like, is the audience going to understand? Going to react? And sometimes you need an icebreaker. And my parents live in California; they can't come to every show. But if they ever are there, we know that there will be someone who is following. And please don't misunderstand. My dad laughs too, but his laugh is a little lower. Right. They're incredible people, and especially because they've been so dedicated and watched the evolution for my whole life. It's been incredibly rewarding to kind of give back to them in that way. They really seem to have fun.
Do they have a arts experience, arts background?
They didn't originally. I mean, my father read books from the time that they would let him get a library card when he was 4. So he's had an imagination, and he's a chemist, and I honestly believe that that's a creative art as much as you can make it. Even with dance, there's way too much paperwork. Whatever line of work you're involved in, there's probably a creative aspect to it, at least if you're lucky.
So mine is more logic.
Yeah.
Logic side for you.
Logic, exactly. Yeah. Logic and working things out and coming up with new ideas of ways to do things. My mother, it was interesting because growing up at that time, dance just, if it wasn't in your circle, I think it was, you had to really be destined to it or seek it out. She's been an incredible gift to me because she is so physical. She's been a swimmer for years and years, and having someone who was inclined to run around made it incredibly easy to say that I wanted to do something that was this physical and have her understand it on that level. She certainly did take some dance classes. We tapped together for a while, which is incredibly fun. But they've always been supporters, and I think people don't appreciate the fact that having someone who just has your back and says, that's great, keep going, or I know it's hard, really makes a difference to people who want to make art, because it's difficult. And you know, and I know in some places in China, people literally have to relocate. That's often true depending on what you have to do in the United States. But whether it's driving you everywhere to get to dance class every day of the week, or going to the trouble of figuring out costumes and how to get you from your academic life to your dance life. And then as you grow into an adult, if this is still something that you really love that much and you feel passionate about still doing, not telling you to go get a real job, that's rare, and I'm very grateful. So, but they've had a lot more arts now, but they've always loved to watch it and appreciate it and talk about it and learn about it and support it.
And very, very proud of their daughter.
I'm very lucky.
Yeah, so how do you like your life so far, from 1 to 100?
Oh my goodness. It's hard to say a percentage. It's high. It's high. It's one of those things where anything, like, it would either be in the 80 or 90 and not right at 100 because of the things that I want.
You always have potential to get better.
Yes. There are things that I want to get better at doing, and there are things that I want to dedicate more time to, but I want to also make sure I maintain, like, balance of having a life so that I do. Some artists, I think, are the kind of people that just, it's a wormhole for them. They go into it and they never come out of it, no matter what, whether that's like an actor who's always in character.
I'm sure your mom can help you with that.
Well, she's very dedicated, but she's tried new things. She actually just started, as far as the arts go, my mother has expanded. Back to mom. She started making stained glass.
Oh, really?
Yeah. In the last 4 years, my mother has produced artworks that just make your jaw drop. They're so incredibly beautiful. And she never did this when she, as a full-time teacher, much like as a full-time artist. There just aren't enough hours in the day. And I knew that she loved stained glass, but I had no idea she was going to let herself spend all this time making it.
Probably in the future you're going to do a project with her.
I wouldn't be surprised. I certainly, she's the one that taught me tangrams, which is like a game of putting pieces together in different ways, and I think this was a precursor for both of us. But yes, I think I'm incredibly lucky and incredibly happy with my life, but the things that I am working on, because they're not there yet, I am absolutely comfortable saying, I'm working on this, I'm moving forward, but here's something I could do better. There's always something you could do better or work on. I try to keep that in balance, because if it's constantly about that, then you never give yourself a break. I choose not to go down the wormhole and never come out. I try to keep the balance so that when I go into the rehearsal room, I mean, you can have a day where you're struggling with the choreography, or you're struggling with something else, and the choreography helps you get out of it. But I think, I've got I'm very lucky that I've got a really high rating. I certainly wish the arts were more profitable, like something you can't really save a lot of money working as an artist, but I think you can save your soul. So I'm trying to figure out how to work the logistics better. Yeah.
So have you ever been to some extreme before?
Sorry?
Have you ever been to some extreme before? Because right now you have a better balance, but I'm not sure how long it actually takes for you to understand yourself more and to allow yourself more freedom and all.
That's an excellent question. I think I have. I certainly in college I was all about what was happening at UCLA all the time. I did have some very wonderful friends who actually were dancers that took care of me and got me to be involved in some things outside of school. But because I was trying to dance and we wanted to perform more, but the major really organized it as a way to study dance, somewhat physically, but also from an academic standpoint, which is certainly excellent. I think you have to have a strong academic knowledge of dance. That's important, but at the same time, they really didn't present many performance opportunities for us, so we had to make our own. So we started a school organization, and we made our own show, and that's basically where I learned how to produce shows. But it was a bit of a bumpy ride because we didn't have a lot of support from the department, but we did have support from some amazing teachers and the students who wanted to help and make it happen and contribute their work. So the faculty and the student body really, some of those folks banded together, but at the time I think it was such an uphill battle. I really didn't sleep enough. I definitely got exhausted, and that was the point at which I realized I was trying to double major also in an academic science, and I was just so tired at that point that not only was my work suffering, I was losing perspective on life. So at that point I gave up my second major. I went away. I actually traveled for 1 quarter because...
Climb a mountain?
Yeah. I did climb a few mountains. I climbed a hill in Italy because we were staying at this wonderful place that was 5 miles out of town, and got the fresh air into my lungs and came back and felt so much better.
Yeah.
It was so funny because, for dancers, there's always a consideration of weight. I think I gained at least 10 or 15 pounds while I was gone, and I was so happy when I came back.
Yeah.
Ultimately, you lose the weight, your body gets back in a healthy balance because I wasn't able to train. I took random dance classes. I carried my tap shoes across Europe. But I didn't I didn't dance as much, and I think that taking a step back was necessary because I had gone down the wormhole a bit at that point. And I think that gave me the perspective when I stepped outside that there's too much of that. I think once I graduated, because I wasn't within the school environment where dance was provided, I swung in the other direction a little bit for a year or two and had to kind of try to find dance. But that's when I moved to New York and I started to find places and connect with people. And so the pendulum is still swinging towards the center
big goal
point.
is still there.
Yes, big goal's still there. And there's always the desire to be at that perfect balance, but I think you're looking for it.
Yeah, for sure.
I just created a tagline. That's the name of Kevin Reese's show. Perfect balance.
I have full confidence in you. It's just a matter of time or how you balance it. Yeah, and then so name some of the goals or for the short term, something you want to achieve.
Well, definitely to make this, you always want to make the next piece your best one, to learn from the things that you've done. I think this piece has that potential, not just because of Donna's music, which is incredible, but we've never done anything with a sculpture like this before. I think the artistic potential is really increased. Also with Amanda Friou's advice, I have more confidence in the fact that Process is going to have a good guide. And the dancers on this are just, they're mind-blowingly generous and plugged into the whole process of not just the steps, but the shapes. The Kickstarter. The Kickstarter, I don't... the people in my life can tell you that the moment a Kickstarter starts, my blood pressure goes up about 10 points. And the moment it meets the goal, it goes down because I know the dancers can get paid, like the artists, Kevin, and everybody involved. And it's a do it or lose it situation. That's a short-term goal. I want to get to the top of the mountain. And so some of those things. I don't know. Are there? Do you have special goals for the show? What's been?
I mean, like this episode is about you, so let's just keep talking about you.
You're very generous, Jolin. To stay in touch with people like you who have perspective on how the company has grown, and who are willing to give honest advice. That's the thing. I always want to get better at taking the advice, which is like a critique, as in something like, you could have done this better. I want the time when I hear that piece of information and the time when I can implement it to be as short as possible. We're all human, but I think if you spend too much time kind of self-indulging in, oh, woe is me, I didn't do this, it wasn't great, and that's something yoga has helped me with, but I think I'm not at the end of the journey. There are sometimes moments when I can say, okay, great, then let's let that go and move on. Sometimes it goes better than others, and if either we apply for a grant or a festival and we don't get it, or you look at a dance, I have to kind of not watch a dance for a month or so, and then come back to it. Because if I look at it, I'm too closely connected, and if I criticize myself, I take it personally in a way. And getting yourself to have the perspective, but also let yourself go through the process of whatever it may be. There's like the 7 steps of loss, or grief and loss, and denial, and saying, no, it was fine. And no, just get through it and say, okay, it needs to be improved in this way. How can that happen? And knowing that there are people who believe, like you and all the artists in the company, that even if it's not the best, we will tackle it and we will figure out the problem and we will make it better. So improving that process of whether it's rejection or criticism. And that's
take it and improve. That's
take it and improve. Move with it in the right way.
Awesome. So before we end our show today, so still have a last question. That's some suggestions you want to say to the dreamers or young professionals in New York City and the world at large.
Yeah, that's find out what kind of circumstances you need for your dream. And that's everything. That's financial. You have to know that you can pay your rent to a certain extent, or you have to know where to look, or just constantly be open to opportunities. And you have to find what your balance is. If you tend to go down the wormhole, how long can you go down the wormhole? And then when do you need to step out of it? If you can go down for 6 months, that's a long time, and maybe you lose connection to family and friends if you do that. Do you have friends that will support you in that, and they won't see you for this length of time, and then reconnect with them? Or are you able to stay connected and balance the time that you're spending on your dream and the time that you're spending on being a real person too? You can do both. You can be a real person with a dream, and I hope they will pursue that. And it just takes a lot of figuring yourself out and figuring the process out. And sometimes your dream is little, and sometimes it's big. Sometimes it's not your day job. And that's okay if it's still satisfying you. Don't go on anyone else's guideline of what success is. It's yours. And you're going to see a lot of people that look really awesome and successful. They may be very happy and they may not. So do what makes you happy. And if it's in small doses, that's okay. If it's in large doses and you're lucky, that's wonderful too.
Thank you. Thanks so much for sharing so many very honest ideas and what you really think to our audience here.
Thank you, Jolin.
And good luck with the big project, and good luck with your life. Have a wonderful night, everyone.